Hello, I'm Jordan, and welcome to episode 4 of the Andalusia Knits Podcast. This is a series where I give you a little behind-the-scenes peek of what I'm knitting on, what I'm currently designing, and what I'm planning on knitting and designing. Thanks for joining me today. And if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and give this video a like. And if you'd like to see more videos like this in the future, you can go ahead and subscribe as well. And if you haven't checked them out, at this point in my channel, I have started to hit a nice little rhythm of weekly video uploads. And every other week, you get a podcast-style episode like this. But on those alternating weeks, I do different videos, either project-based videos, or I've got some tutorials up as well for different knitting techniques. So I would definitely go ahead and encourage you to check those out if you haven't already. And we've got a great episode today, so I'm ready to get started. Let's go. Okay, so first up today, I have a little something exciting. I have my very first test call for the Ion Spark hat, which I've designed. And if you've watched the last couple episodes, then you've probably seen this before. And I'm finally ready to not necessarily share it with the world, but share it with a few test knitters. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely you'll want to pay attention to this. So basically, the hat I have designed to be in 5 sizes that range from 18 inches circumference to a 24-inch circumference. And the hat is supposed to be a bit slouchy. It's not going to look super slouchy on me because I knit this original sample to fit the person that I intend to have for the pattern photos, and that person is not me, so it's a little tight up top, but the idea is for it to be a bit slouchy. It's not supposed to necessarily sit flush with the crown of your head, although that being said, it's not typically too terribly hard to make some adjustments to the height if you'd like to do that. But basically, the techniques that are involved in this, if you're interested in knitting, are you got to know how to knit purl. There is some stranded color work, and you need to know how to do right-leaning and left-leaning decreases. So knit 2 together and SSK, basically. And that's really all of the main techniques in this. I have tried really hard to make sure that that the pattern will work, even if you're not super terribly familiar with those. I mean, ideally, you'll at least have heard of those before, but I wanted to basically make the instructions simple enough that if you just follow every step to the letter of the law, you don't have to think about what's happening. Just do what I'm telling you and you'll get to the finished result. So if this is something that maybe is not something you've tried before, that's totally fine. I would love to have some test knitters who are not necessarily the most experienced, just to get a good idea of how this pattern reads to people of different experience levels. And let me check my notes and make sure I'm not missing any really important things about this so far. Oh, I have missed some important things. The test knit itself is going to run for 5 weeks between September 5th, which is this Friday. This video is coming out on Tuesday, September 2nd. And so the test is going to run from this Friday, September 5th, until October 10th. And so I wanted to give people plenty of time. I know that 6 weeks for a hat, for most people, you're like, are you out of your mind? Why 6 weeks? But I just wanted to, as I was coming up with the sample, I was as the designer, understandably, I was very motivated and very excited to knit this hat. And I knocked this one out. This is the middle size, the size C. And I knocked this out in probably a week. And because I've never run a test knit before, I was trying to think of a good rule of thumb for how much time should I give the test knitters to actually do this. And so my initial thought was, well, as the test knitters are not the designers, I should expect that they are going to be half as motivated to do this as I am, and it's going to take them twice as long to do that. And that's not a dig on test knitters. That's the way things should be. The designer should be more invested in working harder towards the success of the pattern than the test knitter, because they're the one that's, it's their whole deal in the first place. So that's fine. And so since like I said, I got this done in a week, so I was like, okay, well, I'll double that time to 2 weeks, and then double that time to 4 weeks, and then add a 5th week to make sure that people people have time to get the yarn that's necessary for this if they need it. Oh, and that's the other important thing I forgot. The pattern uses DK weight yarn, and while you don't have to use the exact yarns that I use in this sample, which are Machete Shop and Hedgehog Fibers, I would ask that you keep it to a DK weight yarn. Just simply because at this point, I mean, perhaps in the future I would go back and like do different patterns for different yarn weights. But at this point, I want to like keep things as simple as possible. So I really need this tested in the DK weight yarn as it's written. But I think, let me make sure that I haven't missed anything super important. No. Oh, very low pressure. This is my first test knit. I'm not expecting anybody to like work miracles for me. I'm not expecting anyone to do any sort of promotion for me or anything like that. In the form, I do ask for like a public Instagram or Ravelry account, but that is more just to make sure that I am getting like an even mix of like different skill levels, so I can just kind of take a look and see where everyone is in their knitting journey when I'm picking testers. But there's no promotion requirements or anything like that. Like I said, this is my first one. I want it to be low key. I want to enjoy it. I want the people that are knitting it to enjoy it. So I wanted to keep it a nice long test window and not a lot of intense feedback needed. Basically, the feedback I want is just like generally in my pattern writing style. Like I said, this is my first test knit, so I don't really have a ton of like real user feedback on like how weirdly or how badly I phrase my patterns compared to the average pattern writer or whatever. So I'd like some general feedback on the pattern in general, but specifically on the three main design elements for this hat, which are the corrugated rib at the bottom, and then this pearl bump stranded color work that's in the body, and then my favorite part, these decorative zigzag decrease lines at the top. And that's the part that I'm really interested to see how the test knitters are going to work with that. It is definitely the most complicated part, but like I said, I've tried to write and chart the instructions so that if you don't understand what's going on, that's okay. As long as you're just doing exactly what the instructions are telling you to do, you should be able to get to this zigzag finished result, even if it seems a little crazy to you at the time. So I think that is going to be about it for the test knit. Like I said, there is a Google form link in the description below if you are interested in testing for this. I will keep this, the Google form link open probably at the very least until this Friday, September the 5th, when the test starts. But if I'm still looking for testers at that point, I'll just keep the link open. As long as the link is in the description, if you're seeing this sometime in the future, as long as that Google form link is in the description, I'm still looking for testers, so feel free to reach out and fill that out if you're interested in testing my Ion Spark hat. Now it is time to move into the works in progress. And normally you would see my finished objects first before I get to the works in progress, but I don't actually have any finished objects this week. So works in progress is all you get. That's the best you're going to get this week. And so the first one I have is my Brooklyn Tweed Loft yoke sweater that I showed last week. I showed this strip of fabric from the bottom that was a couple inches too big or bigger than I wanted it to be. And so I said at the time I was going to frog this immediately and restart it, and clearly I have not frogged it immediately. I was too lazy to do that, but I did restart it, and I have gotten some pretty good progress on it the last 2 weeks. I'm maybe like a foot into the proceedings at this point. Although it's unblocked, I imagine it's going to grow horizontally and shrink vertically just a little bit when I block it, just because of the nature of the yarn. But I'm really loving these big chunky stripes. I was a little worried that it was gonna feel like, the word I was saying was like, I hope this doesn't feel too like Sesame Street. I don't know, just like those, it made me think of like, I could think Ernie or Bert, one of them has like a big like chunky striped sweater on Sesame Street or something. And I wasn't going for that, but I think it's gonna end up being okay. But one thing that I don't know is gonna end up being okay is whether this is gonna work as a yoke sweater. So if you watched episode 3 last week, I was talking about some of the concerns I had when I get to the actual yoke portion of this, because since I'm just knitting this in plain stockinette, I'm worried that the decreases, like even, what am I trying to say? Regardless of the technique you use for the yoke decreases, regardless of whether you're doing the wedge decreases or the round decreases. I was worried that in plain stockinette, those like stitches lying on top of other stitches were going to look like lumpy bumpy, like in a sea of smooth stockinette. And so I was worried that was going to stand out in a way that I did not like. And so in the time that I have knit this foot of sweater, it has been 3 or 4 different sweaters in my mind at this point. So it started out as the yoke sweater, and then I was getting afraid of doing those decreases and having them be really noticeable. And so I was like, okay, well then that's fine. I'll just switch it to like a raglan sweater, because I know that technically a raglan and a yoke sweater are not exactly the same thing, but at least in my mind they feel very similar. So I thought that would be an easy switch. But then I got to thinking, like, the last sweater I knit earlier this year was a raglan sweater, and I've already got another raglan sweater on top of that. So this would put me at 3 raglans and 2 set-in sleeves and no yoke sweaters at this point. So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do a raglan, but maybe I'll do a set-in sleeve. That was my other thought. But then I remembered the problem that I had with my first set-in sleeve sweater with striping, which I brought to illustrate why I don't think I'm going to make this one a set-in sleeve either. So you'll see this is the 3rd sweater I ever knit, I believe, and it was the 2nd one that I deemed to be worthy of wearing into public. And it is a set-in sleeve from Knitpicks Wool of the Andes Sport Weight, which is not a big surprise to anybody here. But you'll see I did the stripes on the chest, and I completely omitted them on the sleeve cap, which was not my original intention, because, but as I was knitting the sleeves, I realized I'm gonna have to seam the sleeve to the body, and that's gonna be scary enough, but to like have to worry about like seaming the correct color striped on the sleeve cap to the body, that just seems near impossible in my mind. So I also gave a thought to doing the technique where instead of like knitting the entire sleeve cap and then seaming it together, you like pick up stitches and do short rows along the curve of the arm that way. So that way, at least I would be able to respond in real time to the color stripes I needed. But even that just seemed like a lot of work. It just seemed like something that I would want to like plan out and have intended from the start. So at this point, like, I've cycled back to this sweater being a yoke sweater, and my fears about the decreases and them being really visible, they haven't really been resolved, but I'm just going to push through at this point. And my first attempt is going to be with this yoke approach. And if that doesn't work, I can always go back and try the short row set and sleeve method for striping, or I might just, like I said on that previous sweater, I might just omit the striping on the sleeve altogether. But hopefully the yoke approach will work. Maybe it's not going to be as bad as I'm imagining in my mind. But I've still got at least another like foot or so of body to knit and sleeves to knit before I even have to worry about that. So there's plenty of time for me to like get scared and change my mind again. So at this point, still a yoke sweater, but next episode, who knows? So next up in the works in progress is something that you have not seen before, and might be a little shocking that I have made as much progress as I have on this. So this is a gift for my cousins-in-law who are having a baby soon, or not. They're not having the baby soon. They're having the baby shower soon. So I really had to like get to work on this present. And I don't know if they're watching this. I know they're aware of the YouTube channel. So Lindsay and Hunter, if you don't want to see the present, close your eyes now. But I have been working on a log cabin baby blanket for them, and it has been, I don't know if I can get the whole thing into focus, but it has been so much fun, and it has flown so quickly. I cannot believe that at this point, I basically have the entire blanket finished. It's like 34 inches across one way, and I just need like a few more inches the other direction for it to hit like baby blanket dimensions. But this was my first experience with log cabin knitting, and it has been so much fun. It is very addictive. If you're not familiar with log cabin knitting, basically what you're doing, it's kind of hard to see in this design, but basically you are knitting a spiral made out of squares and rectangles. So I knit this green square in the middle first, and then I picked up stitches along the side of it and knit this white square. And then I knit the purple and the yellow and the red and then the green, and you just basically spiral out in rectangles until you get the size blanket that you're looking for. And it's very addictive because at first, these first little teeny tiny squares, they're like 15 stitches wide, and so I could like knock out 2 or 3 of them in one sitting, and it's not bad at all. But then as the further and further you get out, like with this like giant yellow stripe and this giant white stripe, these are taking like, before I was like knocking out 2 or 3 in a sitting, and now it's taking me like 2 or 3 sittings to knock out one of these stripes. But thankfully, almost finished with this. It's gone so fast. This has been so much fun. It's been a hot minute since I've knit a blanket. If you watched the first episode of this podcast, I believe I showed you 2 or maybe 3 blankets that I knit pretty early in my knitting life. And after that, I have not knit another one until I started working on this. And I kind of forgot how much fun it is to knit non-apparel things. I mostly do knit like scarves, hats, sweaters, socks these days. But there is a lot of like potential for like knitting home goods, blankets, pillowcases, things like that. And so this has kind of gotten me on like a little kick in terms of like, maybe I should like try some like pillowcase designs or blanket designs, because it's like if you're working with like, I think this is chunky weight yarn. This is Yarn Bee Soft and Sleek, which is Hobby Lobby's low pill acrylic option. I've never really worked with low pill acrylic before, but it feels so nice. It doesn't necessarily feel like as nice as an animal fiber or as nice as a natural fiber, but like in terms of acrylic, this has been great. And so I've been looking online for other brands that offer low pill acrylic as well. And Knit Picks has one, and I'm sure I could find a few others. But yeah, I'm kind of feeling like I might be entering a home goods era where I'm going to be knitting some blankets, maybe some pillowcases, some table runners. Oh, a nice seasonal table runner. That would actually be really fun for Christmas. But I got a lot of ideas percolating from this one blanket. And like I said, I'm almost done with this thing, so I'm ready to move on to some other home goods of that. Now we have reached the sad portion of the episode. We've reached the in memoriam. This is where I'm going to talk about the things that are going to be frogged, or if not, maybe not frogged immediately, but they're going to be put away and forgotten about. And so the first thing I have in the frog section is something that I talked about last time, but I did not show you last time because I could not locate it for the previous episode, but I finally found it just like languishing in a bag. And this is my Kate Davies Kadach, I think is how you pronounce that pattern. I believe it's a Scottish or Gaelic word, so please don't butcher me for butchering the pronunciation. But it's this beautiful traveling twisted stitch wrap that she has, and I've knit this in the fiber company Aramore Light in this beautiful like tealy green color. And while there's absolutely not a thing wrong with this pattern. In fact, it's so pretty. Like I'm kind of mesmerized looking at it on camera now, how nice it is. But I'm giving up on this one because I have another traveling twisted stitch design of my own that I'm working on. And as much as I like this one, like I just can't, if I'm being honest, I'm not going to do like 2 traveling twisted stitch wraps at the same time. That's not like the project stacking that I'm going for. That's way too same. And so I'm going to get rid of this one, but I almost certainly will use this yarn for something else. I really like it, and I very well may come back to the pattern itself because like I said, there's nothing wrong with the pattern itself. It's just sort of like the wrong time for the wrong pattern. So I'm gonna say goodbye to this one. I'm glad I finally found it because like I said, it was on needles, and it was lost for a few weeks at this point. And I found it in my backpack where I keep like my oboe stuff. Like normally I keep my knitting and my music stuff separated, but for whatever reason, this had made it into the backpack where that I like take to me with rehearsals and stuff. So yeah, I'm glad I found it. Sorry that it's gonna be frogged now that it's been found though. So that is my first frogging, and I kind of lied to you in that because I said that I wanted to frog that particular piece because I have my own traveling twisted stitch design wrap that I'm working on. And if you watched last episode 3, you saw me talk about that. But that is kind of a lie because now I have decided also to frog the my traveling twisted stitch design, which I didn't get very far on at all. I did some nice like 2-color seed stitch, but not much beyond that. And the reason I am frogging this, like the last one, like this yarn is great. This is Duna yarns from Amano, I believe is the brand name. And it is a mix of like 60% cotton, 40% alpaca. And this is another one. The yarn is very lovely. But unlike the Kate Davies pattern, I have a lot of issues with the pattern that I wrote. So basically, I've been working on this 2-color traveling twisted stitch design, lattice design that you can kind of see the remnants of right here. And it's not that I hated what I was coming up with. It's more that I have been trying to like rush the process and force it in ways that it doesn't want to go. So this is actually, I'm very much a do it right, do it once kind of person. And that was not working for me in this particular design because I did not have a good conception in my mind of what doing it right even looked like. Like I was running into like design problems and I was kind of like, just like, so I couldn't be bothered with them. I was like making just these very like simple like switches in the design stuff just off the cuff, off the top of my head, which is not how I operate. I'm very much like, I want to like think through my options sort of guy. And so I could tell that like, I was like, I mean, I could have probably pushed through and made an okay design, but this was like, my heart was not in it. It's not ready to be on the needle yet. I need to do more swatching so that I can find like a motif that I'm actually interested in and not a motif that I'm saying, okay, well, that's good enough. Well, let's just do that. And just to do something, just to get this over with. Like, that's not the attitude I should have, like designing patterns, like, well, let's just do something just to be done with this. So yeah, this one is getting frogged and retired for now. I may come back to the 2-color traveling twisted stitch, but probably not anytime soon. I don't know, my heart's not in it. I was excited doing some of these swatches, but then when it came time to like actually turn the swatches and all these like fragmented ideas into a coherent like wrap, into a coherent project, my brain and my heart were just not cooperating. So yeah, this is another one that's going to be frogged. It'll be missed, but it'll get turned into something eventually. Now we are going to move into acquisitions, which I actually have a couple this week. So the first acquisition I have, if you'll recall in the section about the Ion Spark test knit, I was describing how the hat should be all, you know, like nice, a little bit slouchy or whatever, and then I put it on and it's skin tight because it's not, I did not knit the size for me. I knit it the size that the pattern model is going to wear. So I bought some more yarn to knit a hat, an Ion Spark hat for me in a size that will actually fit and in colors that I will actually be excited about wearing. And so I went with the same brands as the original sample, Machete Shop and Hedgehog Fibers, but I switched up the colorways just a little bit. The Hedgehog Fibers, it was a real leap. I went from cinder to crystal. I think the cinder gray is like slightly darker than this one. It's not really a big change in that respect. But the Machete Shop, the original colorway I used for the first sample was Steralfer, and this one is called Agatha. And you know, normally there are like themes for like colorways. Some companies do themes. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, like, I don't know what either one of those words has to do with one another. I don't even know what the word Steralfer even means. I guess Agatha is a name, but I'm trying to figure out like if there's like some like theme to her colorway names that she does or what. But anyways, this is the Agatha colorway. This is much more my style. It's very similar to the Steralfer, except instead of you get like little flecks of pink in the Steralfer, whereas in this it's more like grays and blues, which I think is gonna suit my style a lot better. And so yeah, I'm gonna be knitting up another Ion Spark during the test knit myself. I'm gonna be doing probably the largest size because that middle size was not nearly big enough on my big head. But yeah, so that's my first acquisition, is some new yarn for another sample for the Ion Spark. My next acquisition, I don't have any plans for like I have for the first acquisition, but I am super excited about it nonetheless. And I picked up some beautiful fall style colors in Acadia from the Fiber Company. at my local yarn store's anniversary sale they have every year. That was last weekend. And so I got a nice little discount on some of this yarn. I've used Acadia before in the past very badly, very stupidly. For whatever reason, I was like, I saw this yarn, I was like, I need to make a pair of socks out of this. And obviously, like I thought, I guess my rationale was that, well, it's got some silk in it. So the blend of Acadia is silk, alpaca, and merino. And so I was like, well, it's got some silk in it. It'll be okay. But what I didn't realize at the time, it's not. It's like those silk, like little bumps. I don't know what they're called, but the little silky flecks. You can see it here, the noils or whatever, which is not necessarily as strong or as reinforcing as like a silk strand would be. So yeah, my first experience with Acadia was terrible because those socks fell apart almost immediately, started felting almost immediately. But that was not Acadia's fault, and it was a great yarn to work with. And so I got this like in a fall palette, and honestly, I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with these, but every time I look at them, I hear myself like muttering fall shawl under my breath. And so I'm pretty sure like some sort of like fall themed shawl is going to come out of this. I haven't done any swatching or anything. Like I said, I haven't gotten beyond like I want some sort of colorwork shawl, but this is destined for something, hopefully before the fall is over. But yeah, that's my second acquisition. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. I'm pretty sure I've hit everything that I wanted to talk about so far. So if you've watched this far, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in again. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And maybe give some of my other non-podcast videos a watch. I have a couple tutorials up on how to manage colorwork, Antarsha colorwork, and how to knit an alternative right-leaning decrease to knit two together. I've got a video about my yarn stash where I organize it and go through all of it. That's kind of crazy. But that's going to do it for today. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!